Hey everybody, welcome back. What we're going to go over today is kind of a continuation of our automation talk from last time. Now, we started going over templating and how that can be scripted out. A little hand wavy, but basically we are just kind of allowing things to be automatically scripted out, which again, as good, well, you're all cloud applications developers, but if you were a good system administrator, you would be staying as far away from the GUI as possible. Script everything. Um, Reduces user error, reduces time spent, and reduces headaches more or less until you spend hours tweaking your build script and then wonder where the day went. But anyway, what we're going to be going over here today is the monitoring and the logging tools that we have available to us. Now, as we start moving towards, automating things, and I guess regardless if we're automating or not, having services running up on the cloud, it is extremely important that we keep an eye on things. And by us keeping an eye on things, we can know where we're being billed, what kind of resources are being used, who has access to it, and effectively everything you need to know about a running service. So maybe consider what you know from the local way of keeping an eye on your resources, whether you're using logging, Splunk, any of those kind of profiling tools, testing tools, logging tools, all of that is available for us here in the cloud. So what you're seeing here in front of you are some of the different technologies that Google has. Now we have monitoring, we have logging, we have error reporting, so basically kind of important for keeping an eye on things. Cloud Trace, Cloud Debugger, Cloud Profiler, these are basically for stepping through your cloud services and seeing what's going wrong where. Whether you're interested in performance data, whether you're interested in bug reports, error logs, usage logs, all of that is available up here for you. And depending on which data you need, which visual you want, that kind of depends on which of these service pages that you go to check things out. So we are going to kind of go over these at a high level, and then I'll show you a quick little demo on at least keeping an eye on things. So cloud monitoring, this is one of the first ones that we can use. Basically, we get kind of nice graphs and nice detailed analytics for exactly what our services are doing. Now, this is going to be a very helpful tool for you for keeping an eye on things. Now, oops, I got the wrong tab open for you. Sorry about that. We're going to leave that in. Yeah, it's more of a classroom than a YouTube series. But cloud monitoring. No, I have to type cloud in there. It's just monitor. All right, so first time for this project, it's got to enable it. And because it's monitoring, we're going to make it nice and pretty. But while that is populating, let's talk about this briefly here. Can I get my nice view? Nice view here. So again, what we're really getting out of this are analytics. So we are keeping an eye on our services, and cloud monitoring is going to really help you populate, effectively dashboards if you're familiar with that notion. You're going to get nice histograms, nice graphs of showing you exactly what your various services are doing. Now, it's still going. One of the other things that we can get in here too are logs. So I'm waiting for monitoring to finish spinning up here. Logging is effectively, it's a tab in pretty much every service that you have that gives you detailed log information. And what's a log? If you've never seen it before, basically it is just some kind of an output from your thing that you have deployed. Whether it is a script, whether it's an application, whether it's a service, there will be an associated log. It could be an access log, could be debugging info, could be simple std output, just kind of depends. But effectively, it's going to be something that you should keep checking out as you're building your services and as your users are interacting with them. So do we have our monitoring dashboard up? We do. Okay. So we have options in here for our dashboards. I can look at resource dashboards. I can see virtual machine CPU utilization and byte receiving and sending, disk read. Basically what happened here is that because I have, excuse me, I have some virtual machines that have been created, and I just created a cloud function, I'm going to get data relevant to that. The cloud function I literally just created while I was spinning things up here, so probably hasn't been populated yet. But I can really get a good feel for what's going on. If you've ever played with, say, a Grafana visualizer or something of that nature, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, awesome little open source tool for visualizing things. Um, get dashboards that kind of look like this, basically. It's all configurable by you. It's kind of the same idea, except this one is really tailored to your environment. So let's look at our compute engine dashboard here. So very easy to parse out what's active, what's going on, what's my activity by region. Again, this is specific to compute engine, so I'm seeing this kind of information. Now, if I want more detailed info, I would probably have to enable, say, agents to actively collect data, which you see this little info tab right here. And here, install the monitoring agent. You have some alerts to check out. So again, there is going to be some analytics going on from Google's side in the background to kind of push you in the right direction. But monitoring, definitely a very useful thing to keep an eye on. All right, so we could also look at GKE, and we don't have anything. For some reason, I thought we had something spun up here for you, but I guess I don't have anything up and running. Forget that part. We're not going to use GKE right now. But with the logging, so that was monitoring, just kind of a brief foray into that. Logging is something interesting as well. So I created this simple cloud function here, okay? Python 3.8, and I've called it once. I don't see any invocations per second yet because it hasn't had enough time to collect data. But what this thing does is it just prints out a bunch of data, and I just had it randomly spew some information out. Now, again, nothing too crazy here performance-wise. It's just literally returning a string. But I wanted it to look a little bit different than what we're used to. And for some reason, I was thinking this pound wasn't going to parse. So I have an escape sequence here, but I forgot that Python doesn't care inside of a string. What's interesting though, is if we pop over to logs, again, this tab will be pretty much available on nearly all your services out there. This gives me very detailed information about what's going on. So create function occurred a few minutes ago for me. Basically, it's kind of going down here in the timeline, and down here I see function execution started. Great. I can expand more detail if I need. No error codes. I don't see any bugs. If there was an issue, and it's going to take too long, I think, for this video for redeploying the cloud function, but the log would catch errors. Or if I am, say, passing this thing a JSON packet, or if I'm passing it a query string and it's formatted incorrectly, cloud function would error out and you'd see, whatever error you prefer to display to the user. But in here, I could get very detailed information about what happened. And this will automatically basically scan your logs to see if more detail is available. So monitoring, logging, very, very useful things to be keeping an eye on. We also get error reporting. So basically you can see errors in the logs. You can very easily and quickly get information up and running. Let's take a look at the error reporting dashboard. Now, I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to actually go ahead and introduce an error into my... Oh, this is going to take a while. Never mind. We can basically set it up specifically to keep an eye on, say, cloud logging, and then if we trigger an error, we basically tell error reporting what we want to happen. Let's see, cloud functions, error reporting. Use without new. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this just for fun, because I think it's probably worth showing you. All right, we are back. So I was just kind of reading through this, and for me, error reporting is something that I necessarily haven't always set up myself. I've just kind of referred to the logs, but we can set this up. And if you go to this page here, and I'll stick this in the description, basically this is for setting things up locally if you want to run error reporting and say on something locally and then you want to trigger it. Basically, you can set up a service account, you can get a credentials key, and then basically trigger that. And this is a Node.js example. You can do it in Python or your other common languages as well. But let's introduce an error into this code. Now, let's say format J. J doesn't exist, so this should break. And I'm curious if the compilation will trigger the error function or not. So what I've gone ahead and done is I added a intentional bug into my cloud function. So simple mistake, I made my iterator use the wrong variable. So I'm looping over I, but I'm calling J. Maybe I fat fingered it or I typoed or something, right? So we have an issue here. Now, when I go ahead and run my cloud function, I see error could not handle the request. Your generic error message on the web, right? Now, one thing to note, I was kind of talking about error reporting. We haven't set this up anywhere. Um, Automatically, it picks up this bug for us, and it takes a few minutes to percolate through the system. Um, so if you are doing this live with me and you make an issue with your cloud function, then you immediately zip over to error reporting, it will not realize that something happened. But I very quickly see an error, and I didn't tell Google Cloud anything about this. All it did is it scanned through the logs and it's looking for error messages. So if I go back over to my cloud function here and I click logs, I'm going to, once it opens up here, I will see this crash occur, right? So I see exclamation marks, traceback, error exception, error exception. So what happened? Here is this entire error message. Basically, this is the stack trace for Python. You would get similar error messages for Node or for any of the other languages that you can pick, and it would be obviously specific to that language because it's running that, right? So I see here a lot of detailed information, which is great for me, the developer. Okay, I go down here, I say J is not defined. Maybe I'm not the developer though. Okay, maybe I'm the administrator of this project and I'm not a Python person, but I can check my error report. I can see an error occurred, and then I can talk to the developer who's in charge of that and say, hey, I just saw an issue in the error reporting console. And one thing you might note here is that you can also get notified as well. So if I turn on notifications, every time I have a bug, let me refresh this. I'm curious what the response time is. Every time a bug occurs, I can get an email that something has happened. And if you have a critical service that's running and you start seeing errors, being notified of that is a great way to keep on top of things. So I haven't seen anything come in yet. I've got it off screen here. Just kind of depends. Let me do this a few more times. Nothing yet. But one other possibility, if it hasn't, if this is not a new error, it's possible that's gonna not trigger a new event as well. But very, very helpful if you want to be notified of things. So a couple of other things we have to talk about in these slides here. So we talked about error reporting, cloud logging, cloud trace, cloud debugger, cloud profiler. I've got these tabs open here. Basically, cloud trace allows you to kind of trace through your files and figure out where the performance bottlenecks are. So here, this is just my default page. I see what has been accessed recently. Right, I can get trace data for everything that's happening here. So here I have my fun times abound cloud function. Right, I can click that, get detailed information about, say, how long it took to run. Why is this important? Maybe I'm profiling bottlenecks in some kind of a database lookup or a file read, or maybe I'm taking forever to parse user data, which is if I'm going to date this video, that's the recent Rockstar issue with GTA Online, right? But the point is that I'm not doing anything here, okay? This is kind of Mine, I think this is very cool because I have not configured a darn thing in here. I created a cloud function and that's it. This is all being automatically generated for me to check out. And can I configure things? Can I go in and tweak things? Absolutely. I can set things up as I like them. But just by default, I get the info I need right there. Or I can create filters, what do I actually want to look for? Do I want to look for I'll get requests? Do I want to look for, 400 errors? Whatever you need to do, it's tweakable here. But this allows you to really quickly step through what is going wrong performance-wise. Profiler is kind of the same. So this is not necessarily set up right now. You actually need a profiling agent installed. Like before, we talked about agents being installed on virtual machines to kind of communicate performance back. You need that here as well. But basically, it's for a little bit more detail. We can profile memory usage and things of that nature with that. And the last one to check out is Cloud Debugger. Now, this is kind of cool because you can hook in your source code and debug it up here, right? So I don't have any deployed applications right now. I don't have any sources. But if I were to say deploy an application to Cloud Build, for instance, and I have Google chunking through the build process, I can pull that up here pretty quickly and start debugging things if they're going wrong. Or if I want to hook in, you know, GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab, I can actually bring my sources in here as well, and then I can do live debugging, which is great if you're a developer. And I know you're all here for cloud applications, so debugging is probably a useful thing for you to work at anyway. But other than that, we will play around with this stuff a little bit soon, so hope these videos were useful. See you next time.